All right, for letter B, we know that CD is 10, so we're going to label that as 10. And I already drew these, set up in the correct manner. I've already reoriented them. If you haven't done that on your own yet, I would recommend trying that on your own because that is a big part of this problem. If you're not able to orient these on your own, then you're going to be stuck and you're going to be getting the wrong answers. So make sure you can do this on your own. I have it here on the right side just to verify your work so you can double check it. But make sure you're trying that on your own. If DC is 10, we can go ahead and label that 10 here, also 10 here, right? In two different places because that's part of two different triangles. We also know that DB is X. DB is X there. And what I want you to change is this. I have it underlined. I don't want it to be X plus 6. I want you to change it to X plus 15. That's a typo. So change it to AD equals X plus 15. So we're going to put an X plus 15 here. So that means that AD is X plus 15. And then if I look at this whole distance AB, that's going to be 2x plus 15. So I know a lot of information already, but you can kind of look at these three triangles and hopefully your intuition is telling you which two we want to work with, all right? We definitely want to work with the two on the left, all right? We want to work with these two because they have the most information and they have numbers, right? We like to work with constants because that leaves less variables that we have to deal with, all right? So when I make these proportions, I'm going to take x plus 15 over 10. So I'm going, in that direction, x plus 15 over 10. Let me get the right color here. X plus 15 over 10. And that's going to equal, again, I have to go in that same direction I went the first time. So that's going to have to be 10 over x. So I use a different color here. 10 over x. And there we go. So now I'm at the point where I can cross multiply. I'm going to solve for x here. So when we cross multiply, we've got x squared plus 15x equals 10 times 10 is 100. So I can go ahead now and I can set this equal to 0 and solve. X squared plus 15x minus 100 is 0. I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to be negative 100 but add up to be 15. So blank times blank equals negative 100. Blank plus blank equals 15. Hopefully you found it to be, negative 5 and 20, right? Negative 5 times 20 is negative 100. Negative 5 plus 20 is 15. Perfect. So we've got x minus 5, x plus 20, once we factor that. And then, of course, my two possible answers could be 5 and negative 20. Now, because this is quadratic and we have a word problem here, basically, I do want to double check to make sure that both these answers will work out. So I'm going to plug them in right now. And if I plug in a 5 into here, well, that side would be 20, which is allowed. And if I plug it in here, that side would be 5, which is also allowed. However, if I plug in a negative 20 here, that would give me a side length of negative 5, which is not allowed. Even if I plug it in here, that'd be negative 20, which is also not allowed. So we know that negative 20 is an extraneous solution in this problem. So I know that x is equal to 5. So with that extra information, I'm going to actually kind of erase what I have here. I'm going to erase this x. I'm going to replace it with a 5 because we know that this is 5 here. And I'm going to erase this x plus 15 because since x is 5, that's going to give me 20. All right. And I can plug in x right here. We know that x is 5, so if I plug in a 5 there, that's going to give me, that's going to give me a side length of 25, right? 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 15 is 25. So I, again, know a lot about this shape just by finding one variable. So I'm going to change everything. This is going to be, 20 and 5. All right, so we are ready to go. I'm now going to find the, let's find the other missing cell. So let's try to find, how about BC next? So BC is right there. So if I'm trying to find BC, I'm going to call BC, I don't know, how about Y? All right, so BC is Y. So if I'm looking at trying to find the letter Y, I'm going to use this triangle and this triangle because they both use the letter Y. So when I'm making my proportion, I want to compare the corresponding sides. So y over 5 is going to equal, and hopefully you're kind of doing this as we go, this y is matching up with the 25. So again, the important thing is we can't do y over 25. We have to do 25 over y because you're comparing the same things in the same order, right, as always. So now that we set these equal, we can go ahead and cross multiply to find that y squared equals jumping ahead, equals 125. We can take the square root of both sides. So y is going to equal square root of 125. But again, we can break that up into a perfect square factor. So y is just going to be 5 square root 5. All right, so there we found y. And then we can go ahead, so I'm going to label that 5 square root 5. And now we can find the last side, AC. I'm going to call that z. And notice how it's part of both of these shapes. So at this point here, you could use both of these triangles because they both use the letter z. Or, if you're thinking kind of ahead of the game, because this side is y, we know that y is 5 square root 5. So I could just look at my proportions, right? I know that if I'm going from 5 square root 5 to z, but I'm also going from 5 to 10, I know my scale factor is 2. We're getting 2 times bigger. So again, there's so many ways to do these problems, guys. You can think about making proportions with your z squared that's going to happen when you make a proportion there. Or you can just look at these relationships, right? These relationships are all over the place. Look at the relationships and try to find, a shortcut. Now, if you're not sure of the shortcut, go back and check your answer, right? So if I'm guessing, based on this pattern, I know that from 5 square root 5 to z, I multiply that by 2. So my best guess right now is that z is going to be 10 square root 5, twice as much. That's my guess. Now let's go ahead and let's just double check that. Let's verify that. So I'm going to look at z over 25. Z over 25. That has to equal 20 over z. Right? I'm comparing the hypotenuses in the same order as I'm comparing the medium sides. So when I cross multiply, we've got z squared equals square root of, 25 times 20. What is that? That's 500. So if I take the square root of both sides, we end up with z equals square root of, 5 times 100? Well, square root of 100 is just 10, right? So that's 10 square root 5. And would you look at that? That's exactly what we expected to get. So it all works out in the end, all right? So again, tons of ways to do these. Proportions are probably, the easiest route, especially at the beginning. But once you're finding more side lengths, you can go ahead and start using numbers that you've already found to find other missing side lengths, okay? And there you go. We've got our whole triangle labeled. We know all the missing sides. This whole side AB is 25, right? So you've got all the missing sides there. So in the homework, you're going to be asked to solve these types of problems. You're going to see where they give you certain sides. Some sides are expressions. They're going to ask you for missing sides. They might just ask you to find the geometric mean. Regardless, whenever you have a radical, make sure you always reduce the radical no matter what. But that's going to be the homework. So if you have any questions, I'll be free tomorrow morning.